or like a million, because it's all about getting access to a place. And then the second piece of what is a ticket is identifying what level of consumer you are at a festival so we can say who they are. Because if it was all digital and it was a digital footprint you had, there would be no scalping because you couldn't do that. Talk, which is a company that Nick Kokonis started that's now doing restaurant tickets for restaurants,
right,
as opposed to, so they're starting to sell tickets. You have to pay to transfer to Alinea or Next or Aviary if you're going to give your tickets. So I'm going to say, hey man, I can't make it. Do you want to take my Alinea reservation? They allow that, but then they take a fee for transfer. So that digital component, from a scalping standpoint, festivals would love it. Like, I'd love people to buy a ticket and then pay me $25 every time they gave it to their friends. It would be outstanding. So I think that technology is going to start to solve some of these things, because obviously the concept of a paper ticket is a dinosaur, even though it still has relevance. If we looked at tomorrow, I mean, and then that doesn't answer what do we do with scalping today, but I do want to talk a little bit about where you guys feel ticketing is going, because I think it's changing so fast.
Okay.
It's interesting on scalping because it's like this problem that's been going on forever, and there was a really interesting article about LCD sound system where like they were upset about this 10 years ago and it's still happening and nothing's happening about it. And candidly, I don't see anybody doing anything about it at all. And if anything, it's going to get worse now that secondary ticketing companies like SeatGeek and StubHub have gotten into primary. To David's point, historically when you're reselling, you take like a physical ticket and resell it. But if you're buying your primary ticket on StubHub and there's a secondary ticket exchange right there, what's to stop a bot or a ticket agent from buying a bunch of 76ers tickets, and StubHub's doing the ticketing for 76ers, and reselling those all on StubHub, or doing it in the arena with people want to see more than the 76ers. But yeah, so I'm not positive that, and I know the question came from the back of the room, so that's where I'm pointing my eyes, but that I don't see anybody doing anything about it, and if anything, I think it's getting worse. It's not a problem that, candidly, smaller ticketing companies like us have to deal with. I bet Ticketfly sees this all the time because you guys have great artists and smaller venues that are happening all the time. So would be curious like how you think about it.
Yeah, I actually think that it goes back to a question about the secondary market as a whole, and what we can do to kind of stop the scalping at that point. So secondary market, there's always going to be a need for the secondary market. I think the ideal use for it is, to help those who change of plans, can no longer make the event, need recourse to be able to offload the ticket and hopefully not lose money on the deal. The problem is that the environment that services those people is also easily abused by scalpers. And so I think what we're starting to see is, I do think we're actually seeing some movement in this direction. To me, I think the movement that needs to happen and is starting to happen is more validation, verification, being able to actually validate that a ticket is legitimate. And so I think we're starting to see more of that involvement from the primary ticketing providers, because we're the ones with the data. We're the ones who can verify whether or not it's a legitimate ticket. So we're starting to see more primary providers getting into the secondary market because, at the crux of it, I think we're the only ones who can really say that this is a legitimate ticket. So I think we're seeing primary ticketing companies either developing their own secondary products or partnering with other secondary providers to kind of close that ecosystem. Along with that, to the scalping point, I think we're seeing a little bit more, I guess, a trend towards fairness in the secondary market. So we're seeing some of these companies that are doing the verified secondary market tickets putting ceilings on the prices for those tickets. So I think there are some things happening, definitely, but I think the secondary market as a whole needs some work as well.
It's a weird problem because the ticketing companies' incentives are not aligned with the ticket buyers. The ticketing companies want to generate as many processing fees as possible, which happens through selling as many tickets as possible. So by stopping people or creating friction in the funnel, they're effectively hurting their bottom line or their top line and subsequently their bottom line. So this is a solvable problem that people are not moving fast enough on because the incentives are not aligned.
I have to add something that I think slightly disagrees with what you just said. Maybe we were talking about the other 599 ticketing companies out there. But, again, at Eventbrite, we started as a payment processing and anti-fraud company specific for credit cards. Our belief is that, we don't do a lot of large-scale events. We don't do, the hugest festivals. We do some. And I mentioned a couple at the top, but we're primarily focused on smaller scale and middle scale events, and those generally don't have scalping or secondary ticketing issues. If you really want to know about scalping, Google Charles Dickens book tour. He came to the United States a couple hundred years ago, and there were scalping tickets for that. I'm sure it goes back to the Colosseum in Roman times as well.
Right.
Now that things are digital, it becomes a little bit easier for the bad guys to win. But at the same time, in terms of what can be done, when Newport went on sale, Newport Folk Festival went on sale, we actually slowed down transactions, and 10% of all tickets that were being purchased, we're able, through an algorithm and a matrix, to identify those people as known resellers and pull all of those tickets out of transactions and put them back into the hands of people who wanted to go.
You guys must be venture backed.
Well, the point is this, we talk a lot about scalping after it happens, when it hits the secondary market and people are paying exorbitant prices, and that's the kind of media point that everyone likes to focus on. But you can stop it before it happens. Right. And again, if we're talking about ticketing providers and picking a partner, ask, what are they doing? What are they doing in the purchase flow? What are they doing to identify known resellers? What are they doing to pull tickets out of cart and reassign them and allow those tickets to go to people who are your fans who want to come to the festival? One other thing I would add, as again, someone who's been a festival producer, is talking about bots and secondary market people online and so forth is one thing. You guys also need to pay attention if you're using wristbands and so forth and cash box tickets and so forth, Carney tickets. I've worked on festivals where there's just a half a dozen people hanging outside the gates where they're in and out privileges. Hey, you leaving for the day? I'll give you $150 for that wristband. And they turn around, hey, you going to the festival? This wristband works, I'll sell it to you for $300. So part of that operationally is incumbent upon you to police yourself and understand what's happening at your gates as well. The problem does not exist only online.
That's true. And I don't know if the question, sometimes people ask this, the question about secondary or scalping, it also comes in fraud. So I don't know if that was the question, was what if you have just fraudulent tickets? So scalping's one thing. You've got people coming in and buying a large number of tickets like you guys were stopping and reselling them at a higher value. Then you also have the issue of just the full-on fraudulent tickets. So you've got people coming to your gate, the barcode doesn't work because you didn't issue the ticket, it's not real, they bought it on one of the sites when you Google. So I don't know if that's what the question was for, but it kind of the same scenario as, fraud and scalping are two issues that when you start getting your tickets prices that I would say $50 and above, if everything's $20, you're probably not going to have an issue. But when you start getting into the 50, 100, and then some of those multi-hundred and even $1,000 packages that you have, that's where the fraud and the scalping both really become an issue. So you can kind of worry less if you're at a lower threshold on your ticket price.
And the fraudsters are creative. Like they are coming up with what we see. The most common fraud that we see on platform is people using stolen credit cards to buy tickets to real events and then selling the tickets that were purchased with the stolen credit cards. So the person whose credit card it actually is gets protection from their credit card company. So the festival organizer gets a chargeback.
Right.
Meanwhile, that QR code may have already been used at the event. If it's before the event, you can invalidate it and put it back into inventory. But if the event has already happened, that person has already attended the festival with a ticket that was purchased using a stolen credit card. And that's just, I think part of, as technology continues to elevate, there's more and more tools for catching this type of fraud earlier on. But as long as people want to steal and do this kind of stuff, they're always probably going to be half a step ahead. So it's just about remaining vigilant and speaking to your ticketing company ahead of time and saying, hey, what are you guys doing to stop fraud? How do you guys think about this? Is the strategy evolving? What are you guys seeing? And I think that's part of having the open dialogue.
One of the questions you can ask, and that helps fight the fraud and the scalping, is if the provider offers something called delayed delivery. So when you get into the digital, obviously if you're mailing out paper tickets, and sometimes we do because they're passes and they're really cool, or they're credentials, but we often don't mail those out until much closer to the event. But in the digital, when you're getting a mobile ticket or you're getting a print-at-home ticket, those typically, with a lot of systems, will go out immediately, and that's the problem. I bought it with a stolen card, and then I'm going to get the charge back, but now I've already got the barcode. So one question you can ask, it's a really simple fix for that, is delayed delivery on your digital deliveries. And that simply means that the moment a purchase happens, it gives the ticketing company time to go in and retract those orders if you want to, that are obviously fraudulent or known. There's a lot of tools in place. And then you deliver the print-at-homes or the mobile tickets in a delayed measure. So you set the time frame for later so that they'll get their confirmation email, but they don't have to get that barcode and put it out there into space where they can sell it and do things to it, and then all of a sudden the money's gone. So that's one tool that's fairly readily available. That is a question that you can ask.
Yeah, I would add to that, there are steps that you can take as well on your own end as the event organizer that can help kind of thwart this type of activity. Especially as you get closer to the event date, you can start considering things like will call instead of print at home. You can think about things like potentially lowering the ticket limits that someone can buy per transaction. Specifically, I think this is most effective when you're talking about high dollar tickets. You're generally not going to see someone buy 8 super VIP passes the day of the event. So that's going to look a little bit suspicious. So there are actions that you can take on your own end. You do have to weigh the pros and cons. Obviously, moving towards will call is going to affect the workload and traffic for the box office, so definitely take those things into consideration. But if you're doing will call and you're asking for identification as well as the credit card used to make the purchase, that's going to significantly cut down on the amount of fraud orders that are allowed to enter.
Mm-hmm. So hopefully we answer that question. We're getting close to, well, we may as well open up for questions anyway, because we've got about 10 minutes left. So we touched on that a bit. We didn't touch, does anybody have the specific question on VIP that you wanted to ask? Or any other questions for us? Yes.
So I've tried to ask this question to people at Eventbrite before, and they often, they give me answers, and it never seems to make sense to me.
That's because John is not your account manager.
Well, we'll see. We're going to find
No.
out.
I'm wondering, I'm like, they're on account Mary. So at the bottom of the Eventbrite page, it says that it gives you a breakdown of how many people are coming through what different channels. And it says that, for me, it says that upwards of 50% of it is coming through Twitter shared tools through Eventbrite. And I don't even know what those are. And I don't know, I haven't seen, I don't know what they are. So I'm wondering.
Well, I'll answer that in 2 parts. The first part is the piece of functionality you're talking about has actually recently been deprecated. And all of that now lives in the analytics sidebar link, which is on the left-hand side of your event page. And it's broken down, it's a little more crisp in terms of what that is. But speaking generally, we provide, and not to go into a marketing conversation because we're here to talk about ticketing, but we provide marketing channels of our own, including our website, our socials, et cetera, which have trackable links. And we're able to kind of monitor and point back to you where sales, both traffic and conversions, are coming from those channels, so you can basically see the added value of the marketing that you're getting on top of what your normal kind of marketing direction is. And if you want to see more about that, talk to me after, and I can kind of show you the new setup and everything.
Any other questions? Well, we covered a lot of the basics, and David, I know you said, hey, I want to talk about what's coming up and what direction is ticketing
I'd like to hear
going.
from you guys. So we've gone from paper tickets, dinosaurs, but still getting used,
Yeah.
to, all sorts of things now where, Amazon's launching stores where you just walk in, buy stuff, and walk out, and they charge you. You don't even have to, So thinking about those kind of technologies, where is ticketing going? What does a ticket mean tomorrow? Where do biometrics fit into this? Why do we even need it if we can utilize a digital footprint or something personal to us? So, fast forward, where do you guys see this entire process going? Because I think we have all of these different platforms that are doing interesting pieces. RFID, beacon technology to our phone, ticketing platform that has its own functionality, but they're all sort of working in sort of parallels that have to do with access, purchasing, and experience, right? So that's it. where where do you guys see tomorrow for ticketing or credentialing or it's not going to look the same.
Yeah. So I think you got to start with the top down to answer this question. So we've thrown the number around 600 ticketing companies. I think that's pretty accurate. But if you were to look at this from this top down perspective, about 50% of the market is controlled by Ticketmaster. The other 599 companies compete for the remaining portion of the market. So what's happened is that screams commodity software product. And with any commoditized product, you're going to get margin compression. Or in our industry, we call our margin our processing fee. So processing fees have become compressed to the point where if you don't have tremendous scale, obviously Eventbrite and Ticketfly have been able to achieve that, but if you don't have tremendous scale, it's very challenging to build a meaningful business. So I think where ticketing is going, at least from a business model perspective, is away from processing fees. Not anytime soon, but I do believe that there is an amazing opportunity with whether it's in-app engagement or digital brand activation, that at some point an upstart ticketing company is going to have both feature parity and reinvent the business model, subsequently disrupting, to use a buzzword, disrupting the basis of competition in the industry, which for the last decade has been price, or in our industry parlance, processing fees. So I think that's, in my opinion, I think that's where ticketing is going. I think that's the 15 to 20 year horizon for ticketing, is that it's not going to be a processing fee based model anymore. And the first ticketing company that figures out how to make money away from processing fees and either goes to zero or shares a portion of that additional revenue with the event organizer is going to change the space entirely, or change 50% of the space. Ticketmaster will always be a processing fee business, and you're not going to shake those venues that are owned and operated. So
I'm laughing because years ago when my husband's here and we founded our company together, and we were not in it for very long when he said, I don't know, but I think it's going to go to where there's no fees. But he said this 13 years ago. And so I don't know how we would function without some sort of fees or charges on there. I mean, ticketing at its basics is credentialing. And you're just validating. Do I have the right to attend this event? Did I pay? Is it me? So how you transmit that information, barcode, scan, RFID, doesn't really matter, right? It could be a thing on your forehead. There's got to be something that attaches you to your purchase, and how we credential people. So the format, basically, is all that really changes. Whether it goes to a band, a credential badge, something on your head, I don't know, an implant in your wrist, but somehow we still have to validate. The whole thing is, I bought a ticket here, and I'm going to attend an event here, and am I allowed to come in? And it's really very similar to the airline industry, and I've always compared us to the airline industry. They've always been ahead of us. They had online seat selection long before we did. And it took the ticketing industry.
Right, but now they make most of their profits selling miles to credit card companies.
They do.
They've
but
changed their business model.
They're still credentialing, and
Right,
they're
so
just
if we're gonna
building
follow that-
their fees in, right? So they had mobile tickets long before we had mobile tickets. And so nobody gets a paper ticket anymore from the airline, really, unless you go to the kiosk because you're afraid your phone is going to die or something. So, I mean, it's still the same idea. So I think where it's going, I'd like to hear from you two where you think it's changing, but that's it at the basics for me, is it's still got to credential you and say, yeah, you bought that ticket, you have a right to attend this event somehow.
Yeah, I was going to say, as far as the future of technology, I think it's tough to predict. There are so many options and so many different ways this could go. I think we'll just have to wait and see what the next step is. Right now, it's obviously RFID, but that's continuing to grow and evolve. So, I think it'll be interesting to see where that goes next. What that means to me in terms of, being a primary ticketing provider is I actually think that we'll see more partnering and not necessarily outsourcing, but having those integrated partnerships with the technology providers. Some of the technology is just so intricate and intense and so dev heavy that I'm not sure it behooves a primary ticketing provider to really get that deep into it. And so instead, I think the ability to partner with the best in the biz leaves the ticketing provider more agile and more able to adapt to.
Are you talking about like other products like the beverage and point of sale
like
and
an app store.
Those kind of things?
Like
That's
the
what you're talking
Eventbrite
about?
has like an app store. I think this is like a perfect, we were speaking about this earlier, but I think
Right.
this is a perfect segue for that.
Yeah, well, Cassie, I don't think you were done. Were you done?
No,
Yeah, I think a couple of things are happening now to speak to your point. One thing I want to do is touch on RFID. RFID has been very topical for, let's say, the last 5 years in our business, but it's an ancient technology. It was invented during World War II. It was only recently when event producers and, first retail and then event producers said, hey, here's this technology we can use for validation, for access control.
Right.
And now we're seeing it for payments and things like that. So to say we can look in the future and we have a crystal ball and we know what it's going to be, trust me, there was not a guy in 1940, whatever, who invented RFID and said, someday, festivals. So what we need to do is keep an eye on what's happening now, what's emerging now. What we're seeing is distributed commerce, which is something we probably don't have enough time to get deep into, but basically the idea that there's not one exclusive place to get a ticket that's going to allow you to attend an event. You're reading every day about tickets being available now at Costco or Walmart. With Eventbrite, we have a number of distributed commerce partners, Facebook being one of them, where you can purchase a ticket right within your newsfeed and never touch the Eventbrite page. These things are happening today. Relative to what Willie was saying about our kind of app store, we have 170 partners that we work with, and these are all best-in-class partners. They have functionality that we're not going to build ourselves. Like Cassie was saying, there's a lot of development work that goes into building a technology platform. We're not going to build a CRM solution tomorrow that's better than Salesforce, but we'll partner with Salesforce. And so again, it's this whole idea as a technology company, you want openness. It doesn't matter if we're talking about a ride-sharing program or a ticketing provider or whatever, because no one company can cover it all. So we're going to work together. We're going to find ways to sell tickets where all of our fans live. We're not going to try and beat them over the head and make them come to us because we see that only works so well. And we're going to work with best-in-class partners who can accomplish that for us, and we're going to partner with them. And the net effect should be that more eyeballs are going to see your tickets because your tickets live where your fans live. And the provider of that ticket, the person servicing that ticket and putting it in front of them for purchase, probably is not going to be the majority of the time an Eventbrite or Ticketfly or Squad Up or Ticketforce. So if we talk about 3 minutes in the future, I think it looks like that. If we talk about 10 years in the future, 15 years, I think we don't know. Again, who knew RFID would be such a big deal? We all would have bought stock.
That's true. That's a good ending point. Thanks. Any final questions? It looks like it's 2:20. Time to Stuart. Are you popping up here? Or no? All right. One final question. Anybody? Nope. Great. Thank you very much.
You answered everyone's questions.
Wow.
Thank you so much. Great job, panel. How's everybody doing? Everybody feeling energetic? That afternoon pop of energy that we all need? Bring it to your mind. I just wanted to make a couple of announcements. Number one, we have a party this evening from 5 to 7 p.m. in the exhibitor hall, and we hope you're all going to join us. So that's the first thing. And there's a company called Fastbar, which is on the right when you go into the exhibit hall. And if between now and the party, if you can go get a wristband, you're going to need those wristbands to get your free drinks at the party. So it's called Fastbar. It's the first table on your left as you walk into the table, and make sure everybody gets a wristband for the party tonight. That's number one. And number two, I would just ask everyone to make sure you go in and visit our exhibit hall and all the exhibitors, because they help us put this conference on, and we really appreciate them, and they have some great products and services. So please make sure you do that. And then without further ado, I'm going to introduce Andrea Helfrich from Ultra Music Festival. I did it
One
so
of the
well
three
before.
has to work, right? No.
Andrea Helfrich,
Hi.
here you are, and she's going to introduce her panel.
Yes, I
So
am.
thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, guys, well, this is the backstage experience, how to optimize that. So today we're going to discuss how to cater to those wants, needs, and wishes of the talent, because happy performers equal happy attendees, right? Okay, guys, want to come on out? Hiding back there. Welcome to the stage, yay. I'm going to have them introduce each one of themselves, because you guys really have a great background here, and I don't want to miss a beat. So, you want to start it off, Mark?
How's it going? My name is Mark Brownstein, and I play bass in the band The Disco Biscuits. We've been playing for almost 22 years now, and we're also the founders of the festival Camp Bisco, as well a festival in the Dominican Republic, which is, I believe, one of the first of the kind destination events that was based around a group of bands, all inclusive, and that's called Dominican Holidays. And
then Nico, you up next, yeah?
I'm Nico Costas, the founder of our team, which is an event consulting company, and I'll be referencing two projects. One is my role as lead producer and venue manager for Festival Basecamp, which is a part of the Sundance Film Festival. It's our music and virtual reality space where I help bring in the music there, as well as the Paul Mitchell Supergirl Pro, which is the world's largest female-only surf contest in Oceanside, California, where I help bring in music and influencers and cater to athletes there as well.
Go ahead, Marcus.
My name is Marcus Glocker. I'm a chef, owner of a restaurant here called Batard in Tribeca. And yeah, I worked in numerous restaurants all over the world. And 3 years ago, we opened our own first venue here in Tribeca. And yeah, since then we are visiting a lot of food and wine festivals in general, and I guess that's why I'm here.
Happy to have you. And last but not least,
Aaron Magner. I play keyboards with the Disco Biscuits. Mark Brownstein is my business partner and musical soulmate for the past 20 plus years.
awesome, welcome, guys. Nia may be joining us at some point, but for now, it's just these guys. And as you can see, our panel ranges from talent, and some of you wear both hats, as well as festival founders and managers. So we've got a great group here. I want to kick things off with starting with the arrival at a festival. So talent, when you arrive at site, what do you need? What is like a must-have once you get to the site?
Sure, I'll start. So my personal experience is kind of that I need to be comfortable, and therefore I need to know what's going on. I need to have a point of contact. I'm lucky enough to have several tour managers, tour mothers, if you will, being able to handle all of my personal needs, but also having somebody on site that I know is going to be able to handle things that might go beyond the responsibilities of my own personal tour manager, like an artist liaison, is actually a really important thing for my own comfort, if you will, upon arriving, especially to a foreign site that I've never been to before.
I will add to that. I was going to say that, touching on what Aaron says, the key at this moment when the artist is arriving at a festival, as a festival producer who's also an artist, the key is having an outstanding artist relations team. You have the relationship between the artist and the festival is built on the backs of an artist relations team, and you have to know that going into this, that you have an outstanding AR team that's waiting for Aaron to show up and is actually there when the tour manager arrives, standing there waiting for them, and going to be able to lead them to where they need to go to be comfortable.
And sometimes the tour manager comes first, so they have to make sure they're there for the tour manager, then they're there to pick up the artist. And I mean, it's not just golf cart and Wi-Fi code. It's, I forgot my lucky socks and they're white and I can't perform without them, so can someone go get them, right? I mean, these kind of things come up. So Nico, from the festival side of it, how can you ensure that this happens?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really important thing to just have a well-defined role for every person and make sure that, like they said, they have a point of contact for it. So, on our end, we want to make sure that it's communicated well in advance that, hey, this is who you're going to reach out to for, let's just say, if we give our artists tickets to movies and things like that. So we've got specific people that will help handle that. When it comes to the venue and the, performing, making sure they're in contact with, our backline team or, production manager and everything else. So just laying that all out so that when the artist does arrive, there should be no questions. It's, all there on paper.
Right, and Chef Marcus, this is different for you, I'm sure. When you arrive, it's not just golf cart. What do you need as a chef?
Obviously, when we go to a food event, some ingredients we obviously fly in as well. So it's not everything on site. So we have normally I would say 3 days to go to an event, and you have 1 day where you're going to cook and perform, let's say 250 people, and you're going to do 2 courses. 50% of that equipment or produce you fly in and finish over there. So the first thing you need on site is really somebody who knows exactly where everything is and really be quick about things, since you have fresh products with you. And to get the professional part over right away, to see the kitchen, to see the side where you cook, how many people, the aspects of the kitchen. So when the dinner starts, you're not going to run into any obstacles, since you want to perform in a very high level, first of all. And second of all, it's a performance, and you really want to be on point, and mostly you have 5 to 6 other chefs doing the same thing, and obviously you need to make sure not to embarrass yourself. It's a very big thing, and sometimes it's not all in the hands of the chef, it's really in the hands of the organizer to make sure that those lists you send over and the equipment needs and produce needs are met, and the communication level has to be there in a certain aspect that it is a 100% thing.
Okay, so executing the arrival and making sure everything is in place is obviously very important to talent and founders on both ends of the spectrum. Now, how many of you are from a big festival versus a small? Let's do big first. Show of hands. Okay, like a third of the room, and then a smaller festival? Okay, and then the rest of you guys? Shout out. What? Lawyer. I didn't hear what? Lawyer, okay, cool. Well, that being said, I want to delve into the landscape of the backstage area, which, as you know, it can either be really tiny or you can have a big backstage area. Usually it's small. And with a lot of these festivals, I work for Ultra, we go around worldwide. So if we're in Japan, the backstage area is really massive. Miami, it's massive, but we can go to Croatia and it's like this big. So it just depends. But what we're going to kind of get into is how the landscape isn't always on site. It can also be off site. And yeah, we'll kind of move into that area. We discussed a lot of things backstage that you as artists really enjoyed, talent and founders. So let's get into it. Backstage, as a musician arriving, what's important to you to have backstage to prepare before your set?
I think that you would be surprised how many times as a band that's been playing for 20 years now, how many times we've shown up at a festival and there's been virtually no catering,
So you want food, you're hungry.
I think that you have to take into account that the artists are coming from all over. Oftentimes they're coming from
Straight
flights.
from the plane. Yep.
Oftentimes they haven't slept. They're coming from another festival on Friday night. They take a red eye, they sleep for an hour or two. These artists, you have to have that artist in mind always. Who's showing up, they haven't eaten, they haven't slept. You have to give them a comfortable space to be in, first and foremost. Someplace that's air conditioned, someplace that's closed in. It's really important as we're showing up to a festival that we know there's going to be an air conditioned trailer or an air conditioned room backstage where we could collect ourselves. If you can provide showers for the artist, it's something that a lot of artists want when they get to a festival, if they've been traveling all night long. It's important, first and foremost, to provide good catering, great hospitality for the artists. You want them to come in and know that when they're coming back year after year to your event, that they're going to be getting treated with great catering, great hospitality. All of their needs are going to be met instantly.
All right, so I'm hearing food and maybe like a Murphy bed, if possible, somewhere in the backstage area. Those are very important. And touching with the needs versus the wants, what else do we need as talent backstage at a festival, whether it's a music festival, a food festival? What are the needs?
I mean, on the arrival, at least for me, I speak for myself. I mean, it's very stressful. You're going to go to a different country and have your bag full of food, and you have 3 people with you, and you really have 2 days basically time to prepare yourself. And when you arrive at the venue, you want to sort of lose the stress. And I think that's the part of the organizer to really say food sets the tone. I think that's one of the most important things when you arrive in a venue and you get welcome with food and a beautiful drink, and you feel taken care of. And I think that's sort of already point number 1 for me to know, okay, I'm going to be fine. It's going to be a great event, and my guys, they are with me, they are relaxed as well, and it sets the tone for the whole venue and for the whole event. And if that is not the case at the beginning, there's a lot of stress factors coming in place, and mostly it trickles down to actually the people that are actually buying tickets and they actually want to interact with you. And obviously people buying tickets to see the chef or to see the musician, and if this person is stressed out, I mean, it's not worth it, I would say.
Now, you made a good point. Food does make everyone happy. It makes me happy, but you're the one cooking the food sometimes. So as a chef, is there something other than food that makes you feel de-stressed when you arrive?
I mean, it's the gesture, I think. The gesture is the biggest part of it. Even if you're not hungry, you get something offered, and the whole welcome ceremony of that thing is just the most important thing. You can always say no, you don't have to eat, you don't have to drink, obviously, but that somebody is here and welcomes you in a way that you know you're going to be taken care of the next 3 or 4 days, that's very important.
Yeah, and I think ours even starts, from the time that they leave wherever they're coming from. So for us, we have to coordinate flights, we coordinate lodging, so knowing that those are taken care of, and as soon as they get off the plane, they're into a car and they're going to their, their condos. So we try and put them in a comfortable setting, whether it's, in a beautiful scenery by the mountain or, just somewhere where they're going to be able to go and have a home base for the extent of Sundance, where there's, you're in a gridlock most of the time and you're needing to walk everywhere. So we try and get them to their location and just let them kind of de-stress and give them a day before, their performance to get in, get settled, especially with the weather at that time of year. So.
Do you provide helicopters too?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Because I heard traffic,
Yeah, the traffic is definitely, that's why we put everybody up within a more or less walking distance, because it'll take you 2 hours to go a mile.
Most bang for your buck. We'll get into that part later. Okay, well, now that we're backstage and we are comfortable, we're fed, what are some of the cool things that you've either seen or experienced or want to implement that make the backstage experience unique? Because backstage experiences can be so different. You can either go and be bored or go and have an amazing time and meet other artists, collaborate, and that could lead to a hit single and you make all this money if you're a musician. How do we do that backstage? You guys we've shared some stories. Who wants to go first? I hear something brewing. You haven't spoken much. I want to hear from you.
I mean, number one, it sounds so basic, right, to have things like clean bathrooms that are within close proximity to your backstage area.
Not for women. That does not sound basic.
Right. I mean, sometimes we need to be reminded that these are, actually very basic human things that, make anybody comfortable, particularly your artist backstage. Having a place that is easy to retreat to so that you don't need to be, in Gen Pop necessarily, or even surrounded by other artists, and you just have your own personal space to either decompress after a show or to prepare before a show. We frequently request a separate area, separate from our backstage, that has a practice trailer so that we can, get some last minute preparations before the actual performance. These are all like the basic necessities that we kind of require upon coming to a festival. and expect of a festival that we haven't necessarily been to before, which happens frequently in this emerging market of festivals. As for, you were kind of touching on wants and different things, you know, as an artist, we frequently arrive sometime dreadfully early to site to sound check and do whatever it is that we need to do to prepare for the show. And then there are hours upon hours of downtime, which, you know, you can spend browsing Facebook or socializing with friends, or if the festival is smart enough, can provide the actual artist experience that all of us are kind of looking for, and the reason that this panel is kind of here in the first place, of what provides for an exceptional artist experience. What goes above and beyond just providing bathrooms and a backstage trailer and some things to snack on, as well as catering. So one of the things that we did at Camp Bisco a few years ago, which I would like to continue to institute, is we provided, because we're all musicians, that's what we do, and then we hang out with our friends that are on this festival circuit, is why not provide an area where we can go make music together, not necessarily on stage, where there's not the pressure of going before an audience, but, you know, this is who we are, this is in our blood. Why not collaborate in a low-pressure environment? And we actually had a separate trailer set up. We provided it with a producer, and got kind of a sponsorship from Roland, who sent over a bunch of instruments, and leisurely or scheduled according to your tour manager, everybody would come in and you would have the ability to collaborate with different musicians, sometimes organically, sometimes planned. The concept of that was to actually take those tracks, those collaborative tracks, and then sell them and have all the proceeds go to charity and everything like that. But it basically was something fun that we wanted to provide the artist, because that's what we do. I mean, playing music is fun. After that, there's all sorts of things, and I'll let Mark touch on this because he was kind of talking about this backstage a little bit, about some of the extracurricular activities that you could kind of do at some of these bigger festivals, that have both the smarts as well as probably the financing to provide some special things for the artists.
Well, as an artist that also is a festival producer, we've had the benefit of getting to go from one festival to another for all of these years and see what works and see what doesn't work and implement some of these things back at our own festivals. And one of the things I was telling these guys backstage was when we were really young, we went to Bonnaroo for the first time. And we were really, really blown away. Now, Camp Bisco had already been in existence for a couple of years at this point, but it hadn't grown to what it is now, and we had never been to a festival really that had 80,000 patrons at it. And one of the things that they did for their artists, which was sort of a light bulb for us, was they have an artist village backstage where the artist relations team will come to you and they'll tell you, this is your time, you're gonna come into the artist village. And you can go into the artist village, there's great food and catering and all kinds of things back there. But they give you a time to go through these sponsorship tents. And when you're a young musician who's coming to a huge festival for the first time, and you come through and you get to go from one tent to another and get all of this free swag, it was real. We walked away from that festival kind of blown away, thinking, wow, they really, really know how to treat these artists like rock stars. You feel so good about it. There's another festival in Michigan called Electric Forest that nails the experience for the fans and for the artists. They have an artist village backstage that's based around a pool, and they have a pool party, and it's going on all day long, from the very early in the morning to the very, very late at night. They have DJs there, they have their sponsorships, they have the catering, and you just know, we've been at this festival every year since its inception, and you know when you're going to Electric Forest, you're coming home as an artist. It's one of the things that we've tried to implement at our own festival, is to make these artists, and again, it's a benefit for us as artists. We know all of the artists. We've been touring with them for 10 years. The people who come to our festival, in large part, many of them are already friends with us, and we've developed these incredible relationships. But you want the artists to feel like when they're coming to your festival, like they're coming home, like they're coming back to the family that they love, they haven't seen. One of the things that you realize is, as an artist or as a vendor, or as a production crew, people who work in festivals we're basically carnies. We go from one site to another all summer long, and we all go together. We're all, for the most part, you go one weekend after another, and you get back together. If you're in a scene like we're in, you get back together with your crew every single weekend or every couple weekends. And every festival that we go to, that's a major festival at this point, we know that there's going to be an element of that. We know the production people. We know the artist relations people. If they're handling it properly, like Electric Forest and Bonnaroo, and hopefully the way that Camp Bisco strives to be, it feels like you're coming back to your family, and it's a key element because that's what keeps the artist coming back every year. The relationships, you said earlier, what can you invest in that's you have an incredible return, but it costs very little?
Right.
Relationships. That's what you can invest in that costs nothing, and it gives you the greatest return that you could possibly get. If you can make great relationships with artists and vendors and production people, then you're going to have a successful event.
And I think that's a great point because coming off of what they both talked about sounds very elaborate and exciting. I mean, I want to go to this pool party village where you get free stuff and it's incredible, but you don't need all of that, fuss to create the family atmosphere. It can be done with, we have FIFA backstage at one of the Ultra shows and the guys love it, it's like a competitive little fun thing and it creates and fosters that family element that he's talking about. And you're so right because the people on the Ultra circuit, those artists are on every single show with us and they come back because we call it the Ultra family. So I guess
it's the family.
Yeah.
Bisco fam, they have every festival that's really good at this cultivates a community.
And I want to go back to the priceless element, no money. I like that too. And Nico, I heard about the swag they liked collecting. I think swag sounds good. I hear sponsorship. I hear free goodies. Do we do that at Sundance too? And how does that work?
Sundance, because we're extremely limited with our backstage space, we literally have a 10 by 15 tent that artists are able to come to right before their set, but most people are already in the city, so we like to make sure that they get to go see the movies they want to see. So they're each get an allotment of tickets that they let us know in advance to go see some screenings around their performance and sound checks and everything else. We try to accommodate them in the city itself, so we partner, I think Deer Valley gives us ski tickets, so we like to go ahead and, some of the artists will go skiing through the day. Like I think Michael Franti a couple of years ago literally was like coming into his set with his bibs on and everything, so straight from the mountain. So we like to give those experiences. We partner with other like adventure companies if they're, hey, can you go take them snowshoeing or snowmobiling on the day after their set? So, though we don't necessarily have the swag or we don't have the space, we try and accommodate them in different ways.
Right, so the backstage landscape is expanding from just a little trailer to the entire city that you're hosted in, right?
Yeah, with Park City being such a small town, and then going to the surf contest, like completely different experiences. It's an all-female contest. All of our performers are female as well, so we like to offer up like surf camps almost with some of the professional surfers. So we'll get the musicians in or some of the influencers, and we'll offer up, hey, if you get here early in the morning, we can coordinate with some of the girls that might have been either knocked out of the contest a little bit early, and you can go learn how to surf in the morning and kind of get that experience of what Oceanside and what the contest is about.
I mean, that sounds great to me. I'd want to go to that. And Marcus, I know Cancun Food and Wine Festival, you got to go experience outside the festival as well. Tell me about that and why that makes you want to go back, or if it does.
I mean, Cancun was an incredible experience for us since I had 3 young cooks with me, and for me it's very important as well that I take my young cooks to this type of festivals so they actually can see what it takes to pull off 250, 300 people with a course or 2 courses, bring this food to a different country, et cetera, et cetera. So it's very important for me that the professional aspect of it is there for my guys, but at the same time, they have a chance that I'm going to reward them for the hard work, obviously, they do for me, and bring them to Cancun for almost a week, and we put them up in a nice hotel, and they have actually time as well to enjoy the beach and make connections. And obviously, mostly it's like 5 to 6 different chefs there, and everybody brings 2 or 3 young individuals. And for me, it's very important. I felt the same way when chefs did this for me, that we connect and we talk. And, if a chef wants to move on from my kitchen, for example, he talked to this person already over there and they possibly move on there. And I support that because it's all about, you're talking about music, you have a own room where people get together because it's a musician wants to play and wants to exchange, experiences and different types of music and instruments. And the same in the cooking world, you really want to collaborate and talk about food. And it's nothing more rewarding when you see these young chefs together on a table of 6 and talking all night long about food. And that's something, it's really about passion. And when you go to these events and bring these young folks, it's the most rewarding thing you can do. And you cannot pay this with money. You cannot do this in your own restaurant the same way. These are the festivals we love to go to because they take care of not just myself, really the whole band, basically.
Now, that's really cool, the collaborations I'm hearing, whether you're a foodie or you're a musician, it's fun to talk with like-minded people about your passion, of course. Being the host of a live stream, I hear, let's live stream that. So I wanted to direct it to you guys. Is there an opportunity, if we're giving talent these exciting passes to a ski lift or whatever it may be, to film that and somehow share that with the audience or the attendees, whether it's personally ziplining through wherever, Costa Rica, or maybe showcasing it on Facebook Live? Can we kind of mull over that a little bit?
I know for us, it being such obviously the focus being on film at Sundance, those experiences kind of go on as an individual basis because the music is almost like an ancillary product with what we have. But a lot of, what we do is kind of paired music and film. So those, live streaming those experiences, I know that's not something we've ever done, but it would be a great idea to get the artists involved and just show, what they're doing there, because I know that's, that helps draw that.
Because then people want to come not just to see the films and to meet the people, but also because Utah and Park City is amazing. So it becomes more of a destination festival, which Ultra really strives itself to be, than just, come here for 2-3 days and listen to music or watch the films, right? And I know you guys have done things with the audience, right? In terms of mixing talent and the audience on different excursions in, where was it, Cancun?
So aside from Camp Bisco, one of the other festivals that we curate and promote is a festival called Dominican Holidays. We did it, this is now our 11th year or something like that. We did 3 years in Jamaica and moved it 4 years in Mexico, and now this is our 4th year doing it in the Dominican Holidays. And the experience that we have as musicians is very similar to the experience that the fans have, and we kind of want that. That's deliberate. We're going there on vacation and on the beach. We bring our families. We're in the pool and the ocean. We just happen to play music at the same time. And therefore, rather than separating, in this specific situation, the artist area, which we have a decompression, place, of course, but rather than separating, this is where the artists hang out and this is where, the fans hang out, we deliberately try and fuse those two elements together, which provides for a rather unique experience, right? So whether it's, an excursion where I want to go scuba diving anyway, and it's, come go scuba diving with Aaron Magner or go ziplining with Mark Brownstein, we're all in this together in the name of fun. And it provides for a really, not only fun, but a very comfortable environment to hang out with each other, right? The ethos of the Disco Biscuits since our inception has always been almost a one-on-one relationship of band to fan, which we still have, in the age of social media, it's actually easier, but, we do take it to the point where we're incredibly knowledgeable about the, specific fans, who they are, knowing their names, and that's important for any business. It's very important to, the ethos of who we are and how we've cultivated our fandom over the years. So to be able to provide unique experiences that blends, the fan and the band experience together actually helps continue to cultivate our fan base.
I would add to that, it's a lot easier to have a great experience for your artists at a 5-star resort on the beach in the Dominican Republic than it is at a water park in Scranton, Pennsylvania. So for our festival in Scranton, Pennsylvania, we really have to concentrate on the experience of each individual artist. We really have to be on top of them, whereas once they've gotten through the artist relations part of check-in at our festival in the Dominican Republic, they get their bags brought to their room. People pretty much mill about. You know, there are different activities that you could do, but a couple of weeks ago, before we announced our lineup for this year's event, I got a text message from a drummer of one of the bands that's been at our event a couple different times, and it basically said, "Hey, are we getting an offer for the event this year?" And I sent him a text back, and I said, "We're working on that right now. I think that it's probably going to end up happening." And his answer was, "If you put an offer in, I'm pretty sure we're going to take it. I talked to my band, and this is our favorite festival to go to." Well, yeah, of course it's your favorite festival. You're playing for 90 minutes, and you're basically getting a 5-day all paid, all inclusive vacation on the beach. So that's a great one. But we know of some other events that are like this, where the artists do stay at a different resort or stay at an Airbnb up the road, or I'm not or at a nicer hotel. In our event, we found a hotel that is nice enough that the artists can feel comfortable staying there. The fans are blown away by the experience. But
you put them together? Fans and artists in the same hotel?
That's the thing that's special about the events that we do, is that we do put them together. We do instruct the fans that the artists are going to be milling about, and that they're going to have a designated time where they could come and meet the artists and get their autographs. There's a 3-hour period where we put all the artists in a row at a table, and every single fan in the place comes through and meets each of the artists. It's a really, really cool experience for the artist. It takes a long time, and every year as it's coming up, we look at our clocks and say, "Oh my God, that's happening today." But it ends up being extremely rewarding to get to meet all of the guests and have little conversations with them and see the excitement that they're having, meeting not only your band, but the other bands that you bring down there. But we do instruct the guests to, be cool with the artists. You're going to have the opportunity to meet them. Allow them to have a great time too. And, when you have an artist call you and tell you, "This is my favorite event," we're doing everything that we can here for the artist experience. I would add, the fan experience has to be as great as the artist experience.
Absolutely. Yeah, they're the ones paying to come see the artist, so we would hope so. And I heard some activity when you mentioned Scranton, Pennsylvania and Water Park up in this area. Are you guys also at a water park or dealing with a festival site?
Are you from Scranton, Pennsylvania?
I don't know. I heard some shouting. Maybe they left. Okay, that's fine. Well, you guys, in particular, Mark and Aaron, have over 15 years of experience with Camp Bisco. So over that time, what has stood the test of time in terms of backstage and the whole experience that you can share with us that just hasn't changed, that's just always been a must necessity? Anything that we haven't touched on? Because we've touched on a lot.
I think the brand of the festival is what hasn't changed. We've changed locations several times throughout our careers, for better or for worse. We're doing it now in Scranton, Pennsylvania, in a water park, and it's a place that has infrastructure. The main stage is kind of a shed, if you will, and there's a cool water park, and you can enjoy your day there. And if you want to cool off, there's air conditioning, and there's clean bathrooms, and you can take showers and running water. It's a different experience than our previous location, which was set up in the middle of a beautiful yet barren field, and we would set up a city and then populate it. And then magically 4 days later, it would suddenly disappear as if nothing ever happened there. And there's something unique and magical about that type of experience that is just inherently different from doing it in a place like a water park in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Both have pros and cons, but barren, magical place and infrastructure are definitely different. Yet what remains the same is the brand and the brand loyalty of Camp Bisco, and that's built upon all the factors that we talked about here, not just the artist experience, but the fan experience, and really curating your festival to both.
And reliability, I guess, too, because these artists that are contacting you, they feel they can trust you, and it's a reliable experience that if they come back again, they're going to get that same awesome experience, if not better, this year round.
We were lucky that there's a couple artists that are out there that headline our festival right now pretty much every year or every other year, and they started out on our side stage before they were well known. And
Side stage meaning a smaller stage.
Yes, we would have small, side stage acts come out, and we had a couple of DJs come out. The first time they played, there was, a couple hundred people there, and now it's 14 years later, and they're literally the biggest DJs in America.
You've cultivated their growth and watched them grow up on your stages. It's so cool.
They know that partially the growth in the Northeast came out of these incredible performances that they were doing at our festival, and we grew together. The acts in the festival have grown together, and we know that just a text message, hey, are we doing this summer, is usually all it takes. Yeah, send an offer. It is about the loyalty.
Yeah.
And it's about making these people feel like Camp Bisco is their festival too.
It sounds like you've done a great job. And as you guys can see, we have a new addition to our panel. Welcome, Nia. Hey, better late than never.
Sorry. Sorry.
That's okay. Everything good?
Everything's awesome.
Awesome. We're happy to have you here.
She was lost backstage. I'm so sorry.
Well, we're trying to optimize that backstage experience. So for next time, we'll get better direction. Huh? Yes, right. When do we ever have that problem? Well, welcome. You may recognize her from TV drama Pretty Little Liars, right?
Right.
And Young and the Restless. You have quite the history. Do you want to say a little intro about yourself? I had all of them intro themselves.
Oh no,
but
I'm an actress. I've been working in the business for 30 years. I've done film, television, music, even. So my career started in the 80s with a hit show called Fame, and then it went on to different shows in different decades. So series work is really mostly what I've done. And then I've worked in the entertainment business as a host and a VJ and a recording artist. So
wearing a lot of hats.
Anything if you pay me. No. I cheat.
All right. Well, I've kind of exhausted these guys, but since you're new to the panel.
Oh, I have opinions. What are we talking about again?
I think we could all use a refresher. No, we're optimizing the backstage experience at festivals, whether it's a music festival, film festival, or what am I missing, guys? Music, film. Food.
It's optimizing backstage?
Yeah, the backstage experience. So from arrival, you getting there, you're the talent, right? So from, arriving to actually enjoying it, whether it's seeing other colleagues, what is important to you backstage?
And also, is the question about optimizing that so that you can have them return?
Of course, that would be one, of course, make them happy so they give them the best performance and they are tweeting about it and, going viral about it because that translates to ticket sales, which, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think all sides to that.
Okay, so I'm just gonna start blabbing. If I've already said something that you've said, just shut it down.
I'm not gonna do that, but I'll leave it to you guys.
Okay, so I think the one thing that you have to know, first of all, is how we operate, what we're used to. So we are used to being told where to be, when to be, and they get us there. So my job as an actor is to show up and know exactly what I'm supposed to do when they put me on my mark. But we always have people to tell us where to park, or to park our car, or to walk us to the makeup trailer and tell us when we have to be done, to make sure that they give us a 5-minute notice before we're on stage, to walk us to the stage so that we know where we're going, to tell us where the coffee is or get it for us. So in other words, we're pretty dumb in regard to some basic things that most people would know. We're just used to only thinking about what we're going to do in front of the camera and having someone lead us around so we don't have to think about the other stuff. So sometimes it isn't that we're not capable, it's that we're not used to it. We're used to having details of that stuff just taken care of so we can show up and go, woo, here's what I do. When it comes to festivals and things like that, I think there's two things that are important. One is that you have to know why you want celebrities at your festival. Why do you want them there? Do you want just pictures of them there so they look like they're partying and having fun? But the other or do you want them to actually add something of who they are? And if that's the case, then be sure you know who you're reaching out to, because there's a soft spot in a lot of celebrities' hearts where there's this weird thing that happens where we are celebrated for something that we don't consider the highest value of who we are. So I'm on a TV show called Pretty Little Liars. Wow, that's so big in some people's lives, and in the meantime, I'm like, that is the dumbest thing ever. And I think
wait, in your mind?
Huh?
Did you-
Well, I'm just saying it could be. I'm not saying that.
Like,
it
don't break my
is.
heart. I like that
No,
show.
but I'm saying in my life, I spend so much more time, working toward things of value that I value deeply. And a lot of times celebrities will want to talk about that or add that particular light to the sum of what you have going on. And that's a soft spot. That's one way that you get celebrities. Like if you match the celebrity and their voice, that if you do enough research, you'll know what kind of soft spot they have and where they feel like they want to speak on it or represent that. So those are two ways. If you want people that just want to go have fun and you want to get the pictures, it's a picture opportunity, and you want them to bump up the party there, then know who to go to for that. When you invite them, it has to be really easy. Just easy for them. Come, we're going to make sure this happens, and here's what it is. And something, like Lori's like, I didn't do that. One of the things that Lori and I were talking about last night is there is a plethora of information that we get about what's going on, what are the notes, when do you have to be here, there's the taco bar here, you can have an opportunity for this, that, and the other. That's too much information for me. I want the list of where I have to be and when, and who's walking me there, who is my specific contact. Otherwise, I'm going to be phoning Lori that has 1,000 different things, or phoning you. If you can be organized enough to have specifics on what the call time is, where they're meeting, and having one person that they can call for specific things, and then have a separate section which is, here are the options. If you want to play here, you can play here. So this is where we need to be, at what time and what day, and this is who you contact, and this is what you get to do if you should so choose to. And then have a duplicate of that in hard copy at the hotel waiting for them. Because otherwise, I'm digging through emails and trying to figure out stuff. If you want them to tweet, we're going to go on to social media. Sorry, I was late, so I'm like, bleh. The easiest way to get celebrities to tweet about what you want is not to ask them to tweet. That's too hard. Like, how do I put it in 140 characters? How am I going to connect? Create the tweets that you want them to pre-create it and send it to them with all the hashtags, everything, whatever messaging you want, with giving them the freedom to change it up a little bit. That's easy. I can take that, I can go, oh, I'm just going to add this, and I'm going to hashtag this person, and boom, it's out. Pre-create everything, a bunch of options for them to go ahead and add to their social media. Because posting it is one thing, creating it is a whole other thing. Okay, so that's not backstage yet.
No, what I like about what you just added was you added everything that we didn't touch on. So I enjoyed that. Does anyone have questions? Can we do that yet?
You can do anything you want.
Oh, wow. All right. So guys, I already did a little poll of who's from a larger festival, who's from a smaller, and there's so much knowledge up here. Who's got a question? Anyone?
I have a question. What's the problem getting celebrities? Like, what do you find is the hardest thing for you? Do you know what it is that stops them from coming? Do you know what prevents them or what makes it hard? Is it the agent, like getting to them?
Hi, I unfortunately live in Los Angeles. It's a lot of different things. Sometimes the gatekeeper does not give them the information. I've had that. I've actually seen the people out at parties and said, hey, we missed you. And they're like, what? And they would have loved to have been there. The other thing is schedule. Like, we were going to give a Legend Award. That person kindly made us wait 3 months because they're very busy but had to wait, and they're not available. So we're not going to give a Legend Award to someone else. Does that make sense? But they understood that they weren't going to get it unless they were going to be there. I think the other thing is, last year we were going to bring someone in, we were actually going to pay them, we were going to fly them from New York, and guess what? There were 2 Jewish holidays in a row, the agent was Jewish, we weren't on their radar. Well, they missed the deadline. So that poor person didn't get what they may have wanted. And if they don't want to come, that's fine, but I don't think it's the gatekeeper's decision.
I agree with you, and I've run into that problem on my end of it, personally, and it pisses me off. They aren't the gatekeeper, and it's not their right. And it's a tough situation on our end too, because I actually enjoy sort of communing with people on the other side, and there are so many amazing people creating really interesting things that I want to be involved in just for the creative process of it.
Well, Nia, can I ask you? I can go on IMDb Pro, and I can choose from an attorney, a publicist, the agent, the manager. I have a casting division. I find managers do more than agents. And if I had to choose between a publicist and attorney, I'd go for the publicist because it's their job to get you press. But that's my view. What is your view of the best way for someone you don't know to approach you with one of the million festivals that are out there?
Oh, that is a tough question. And I'll tell you why, because my relationship, any celebrity's relationship to any one of those representatives is different. They might be a friend, a personal friend to the publicist, but not to the agent, or the other way around. You know, and it really is a hard thing. I think if you can be specific enough to why this person and find a personal point about that person. So for instance, you might look me up, and looking me up on IMDb, you're going to find out that I have done this show, and that show. So you might write an inquiry saying, we want to give her an award for being a martial, for being in a martial arts show or something like that. But if you dig a little deeper, you find out that I like to surf and that I have an affinity with the ocean. And so you might be able to address that particular person with something that lets them know, A, you know who they are beyond the veil of celebrity, and you care, and you prick a part of them that doesn't often get pricked.
And
yeah, so if you can do a little bit deeper work, then that's, and sometimes you can look around and go, oh, that guy just likes to party. So it's like, woo, you just send that thing. And the other thing is, they like free shit. So, sorry to say, right? But they like...
We did touch on that a little
we have
bit.
all these bags, and it's free, and it's easy, and it just depends on who you're going to. But if you can take the time to know the celebrity as the person a little bit more, I think that makes a huge difference. It does for me.
So Nia, that being said, earlier on the panel, Nico was discussing, was it the Paul Mitchell event?
Yeah, so for the Paul Mitchell Supergirl Pro, it's a surf contest in Oceanside, and we have a celebrity surf contest portion that all the proceeds go to charity. And for us, it's always a struggle to get the right names there. We do identify, look through, who surfs, who would be willing to come from LA, hopefully down to Oceanside to donate their time for an afternoon, surf with some of the top female surfers, and we struggle year after year to try and get some of the right people. So I guess that was, a great question to help us.
If you had, so your thing was you were bringing celebrities in to surf with the top female surfers?
Yeah, so
you
we
should have had the males.
Well, it's a female only contest, so.
But he'll take note of that, maybe
I will
next
take note
time.
of that, yes.
So I like this sweet spot thing. It's a different angle. Have you guys approached that with any of the artists that have come to your festivals, trying to hone in on maybe someone's goodwill, or if they enjoy a charity, maybe something that hits that sweet spot she spoke about?
Yeah, I know for the Supergirl Pro, with it being a young demographic and all female base, we're looking at a lot of these influencers now and online influencers, and we approach their publicists and we've approached their managers before we'll ever go to an agent, because it's something where we're just want them to come down, enjoy the event. All we want to do is invite them out, give them a good experience. And if they want to vlog about it, they want to talk about it, that's their choice. And that we hope that our event, makes them want to do that, but it's not something we require. So going to the publicist usually is our most successful route, sometimes the managers, but like you said, it just depends on the relationship, I think, and our relationship with those people.
Yeah, and also I think in terms of publicity, I'm not sitting up here because it's going to bring me great publicity. That's not why I am personally here. So going to my publicist, if they're thinking, well, this is worth your time because it's got this many hits on Whatchamahoochie and you're going to get, that doesn't affect me personally at all. I'm here because of my friend Lori and Stuart. That's why I am here. And because I care and I feel like I have something to say about this that could help you. And that's why and it's a free trip to New York. And there's other things I can do while I'm here. So can I ask you a question about your event?
Sure.
So other than them being there that day and surfing with them, what were the celebrities offered to enjoy that day?
So on site, we have we have viewing areas for the contests that are these raised decks up on the beach. So we give them the full VIP experience for what we can offer, which is fairly limited with our space. So, we give them access to all the catering, pretty much all the standard accommodations that we would have there. We try and find ways if they need a surfboard, we'll work with some of the shapers to get them a custom board. We'll, the wetsuits from some of our sponsors, things that will just make it so it's almost, thoughtless. They can show up. We have all the gear ready for them. They're paired with the surfer, and then whatever, if they win, then the money goes to the charity of their choice. So it's, we try and make it so that it goes back to something that they support, that also, helps just bring attention to the event and what we're trying to, raise money for.
Okay, so it was a day event.
Yeah, it's 3 days in the end of July, and this happens on our last day, right before the finals for the actual competition. So they get kind of a 45-minute showcase where they're out in the water and they're paired with one of the pros that just had gotten knocked out. So still in the top.
And you don't put them up anywhere because they're coming for the day.
Yeah, because it's a day trip. This happens at like 2 in the afternoon. I mean, we do have options sometimes if they're coming from a little bit further. We're flexible with
All right,
how
so
we accommodate.
here are the things that would make me interested in something like that, because it's a long-ass drive all the way down from wherever I'm coming to Oceanside or wherever you are. So if you said to me, look, we got a deal at this hotel, you get 3 days, we'll send a car, or even if they drive themselves down, that's worth it. If I had 3 days in Oceanside or something, and you can make a deal with with the hotel that it's free, I get to fart around in Oceanside with some friends of mine and stop and do something good. If you couldn't make that 3-day deal happen, if you said, we're going to get you a tent, and it's just your tent, bring your friends down, have a barbecue for the day, and at the end of it, you're going to go out and surf and do this. With that, you get a shaped surfboard of your own, a private lesson from whoever, and you get your own, that means I get to go spend the day having fun and do some good. But for me to just come down and do that thing, that's a lot.
No, that makes perfect sense. It kind of goes to the note about making it like a destination experience.
Yes.
and accommodating them, for the 3 days. So
Yeah, and I think sometimes too. I've done events where they did I used to do pro ski events, which is hysterical considering I don't know how to ski. It was pretty funny. I was there for comedy relief. But they would raise money by selling tickets at a dinner with the celebrities. The celebrities would come in, they'd put them up, and we would race, but the money was made by the corporate money being paid to sit and have dinner. So I was required to maybe ski if I could make it down the hill, or slide, whatever that was. And I got to work with a pro, which was hilarious again. And then I had to have dinner with this table of people, and it was great fun. There was a cocktail party, and that was that. And it was a destination kind of a thing. And the money comes from the corporate people. Yeah.
The immersive experience is really the key to it, and making
the
it
ease of it.
Yeah.
I don't need a car to pick me up, but I need to know that I can make this a fun day for me. Because we get asked to come help. There's so many worthy causes. There's so many. And we wish that we could say yes to all of them, but we can't. And so we think, okay, well, how can I, after working a 12-hour day, right, 12, 15 hours a day, that's a minimum day. Minimum by law, when our union is 12 hours of filming. That's a ridiculously long day. So when you have a couple of days off, you need to know that you're going to be feeding yourself so you can continue feeding others. So that's a really important thing. Make it as easy and as fun for them as you can. It sounds spoiled, but it's true.
So this concise, way of coming up with things that attract people like you or talent to come, does anyone have trouble with this department? Because it sounds like Nia knows a lot about the sweet spot. Anyone having trouble getting talent? No? That's a good thing. Okay. Well, does anyone, go ahead up there.
Wait, why are you here? No.
So he said it's really expensive to get talent, and now he has a microphone.
Yeah, it can be expensive to get it, and also to know exactly which celebrities will be appropriate for me to get. So I don't know. My own personal strategy is to when I see a celebrity in the street, I stop them and make connections that way, and it kind of works. It's like living in New York. It's not as hard, but
You're saying that when you see them, you meet them and you make a connection and then.
Yeah.
So
And,
if you wanted
yeah.
to get, I don't know, Kylie Jenner, you would go find her. Well, like she's easy to find on Snapchat and go, basically, right? And go.
But
and you've
I
had
wouldn't
luck
go
with
for
that.
her. She's a little too high for me.
Okay, all right. So we're talking like a little more accessible. Go ahead.
You know, when we started our festival out 15 years ago, it wasn't quite the scene that it is right now, and it looks like we're almost experiencing the top of a festival bubble when you look at another new event gets announced every single week. And the reality is that if you want to get great talent for your festival, there's hundreds of other festivals that you're up against trying to get that same talent. And when we started out, about 5 years after we started our festival and we started to realize that it was growing and we were able to increase our talent budget, we had to overpay the talent. You know, that was our strategy at first. Our strategy was just overpay the talent. And I think that
You probably set the market for where it is now.
I think that
Because now it's absolutely outrageous.
I think that there's a lot of people that overpay talent
people are
out
gonna
there.
hate it now.
Yeah, well, after you create a relationship with that talent,
Right,
then
that's what
you,
we're hoping. Then they don't
then you
care
don't
what-
have to continue
Right.
to overpay them year after year, or the agents 10 years in aren't going to fleece you like they did when you were year one coming
Mm-hmm.
to them and nobody had ever heard of this event before. Our event has a certain cachet where top EDM artists really want to come to Camp
Right,
Bisco
they're
every
having
year.
so much fun.
Yeah, well, they love it, and they know that there's going to be 20,000 people there. They know that they're going to expand their audience in the Northeast. I think that that's what a lot of people have to do, though. A lot of people, we know as artists, there's a lot of young festivals that we're getting overpaid to go play because maybe they don't have quite the history, they don't have the cachet. There's, you know, if you want us to come, you're going to have to convince us one way or another, and the easiest way is to pay the artist twice as much as they're normally worth.
And I hate to say this too, but name dropping helps. Like you could be going, it's what, and then you hear, oh, so and so is going, oh. It matters. I hate to say that, but it's kind of like if I hear someone else that I respect is going, then it's almost like I'm assuming they've already done the homework. So I'm just gonna.
So you go off
jump
of
on
that
board.
credibility.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, and with that, I do have to wrap it up. It's a shame. You just got here. The conversation's great. I really appreciate it. Is there any final words you guys want to add?
Thank you.
I think we said it all. Thank you guys. Thank you guys.
Thank you so much, everybody. Great panel. Break time in the exhibit hall. See you back in half an hour. Thank you.
We were winding down, so you brought us back up.